Israel's military intelligence chief has stood down after saying he takes responsibility for the lapse in security on October the 7th. Let's cross over to Bernard Smith in occupied East Jerusalem. This is news that's just emerging, Bernard, but quite significant news indeed.
Sahel, Major-General Aharon Haliva is the most senior member of the Israeli military to resign as a consequence of the Hamas attack on Israel on October the 7th. He said in his resignation or retirement statement, he said the intelligence division did not live up to the task we were entrusted with. We know now that there was a major failure of Israeli intelligence that led up to October the 7th that allowed Hamas to get away with this large-scale attack on Israeli territory. We know now that for up to a year before Israel intelligence had got hands on a Hamas document that laid out the plans for the October the 7th attack, that happened pretty much as those plans had been laid out. We know that spotters watching from the towers around Gaza in the weeks and months leading up to October 7th, Israeli military spotters had said they'd seen a lot of unusual activity. They said they'd seen Hamas battalions preparing for some sort of assault, rehearsing something. All of this was ignored at the very highest level of the military and the government because there was this belief that Hamas was not interested in launching a military assault on Israel. Hamas was more interested in managing Gaza. They got that spectacularly wrong. The head of military intelligence, Aharon Haliva, has accepted responsibility for that. He accepted responsibility about a week after the attacks. He's going to stay in post until his replacement is found. And he's also called for the establishment of a state investigating committee to look into everything that led up to October the 7th. Of course, the government's not done that yet. It says it wants to carry on first, finish the war in Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, facing criticism that he's prolonging this war in Gaza to avoid setting up this committee and the reckoning that will come with it when he, as the Prime Minister, might have to take responsibility himself for October the 7th.
Yeah, Bernard, thanks very much for that update. Bernard Smith there for us in occupied East Jerusalem. Let's cross over to Akiva Eldar, a political analyst and contributor to Haaretz, a newspaper in Israel, and joins us now from Tel Aviv. Mr. Eldar, always good to have you on Al Jazeera for your contribution. Mr. Aharon has said that he would resign but oversee the Gaza operation. One wonders why he's decided to step down now.
I think that one of the reasons main reason is that he realized that Netanyahu is not going to put an end to this war in the near future. He also realized that, as was published in many outlets, media outlets, that Netanyahu is not really interested in a deal that will enable the captives, to those who are still alive, to get back home to Israel. The other reason is that he wanted maybe to step down in the climax after the intelligence success in locating the senior general, Iranian general, that was targeted, as we know, according to Al Jazeera, by Israeli drones, as well as the attack in Isfahan that is considered to be a success. So he is leaving in the climax. The other thing is, I think you have to look at his letter of resignation. There is one line that is directed to the Prime Minister. He says, authority comes with responsibility. And Netanyahu is the highest authority, and he never took responsibility. So actually, Mr. Haliva wanted to set a kind of a personal message to Netanyahu to tell him, if I can do it, you also should do it. Yeah. And the other thing, the timing is today, in a few hours from now, the Israelis will gather in the holiday And this will be the talk of the day, of course.
Yeah, indeed. I wanted to get to that because the resignation right now on the eve of Passover is no coincidence. If he's sending a message to the Prime Minister, he's also sending a message to the Israeli public at large that when you gather over Passover and sit at your tables for dinner, this is the topic that you should be discussing.
Yeah, the topic was, until a few hours ago, was the captives. And people plan to put an empty chair next to the Seder table and yellow ribbons all around. And even in the last demonstration on Saturday, people were distributing plastic bags that contained a quarter of a pita. And this is what the captives are going to get. So this will maybe also put more energy to the protest against Netanyahu and his, I think, his inability or lack of interest to cut a deal that will put an end to the war. And many people suspect that Netanyahu is doing this or not doing this, what he should have done, because of personal interest, that he knows that the end of the war is the end of his political career. And maybe, this is the holiday of freedom, and this will be the end of his holiday of freedom. Yeah. We remember, remember that he sits in a trial.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry to jump in there, but it is something that every analyst we've spoken to and every contributor has been talking about, the demise of Netanyahu. It hasn't actually happened. I was just wondering that if Major-General Haliva's resignation is significant, if we in the coming days, and we're talking hypotheticals here, see more resignations at different levels within the military brass, is that the pressure that is going to, you might say, get more people out onto the streets and add pressure to the government and the cabinet itself?
Yeah, and I think the next one is not only a member of the highest military echelon. I think that it will go to two former chiefs of staff who are members of the inner cabinet, the war cabinet. And I mean Mr. Gantz and Mr. Eisenkot. And maybe this will create a dynamic that will make it harder for them to convince their constituency, their voters, that they have a good reason to stay. If Aharon Haliva, who was the chief of the Israeli intelligence, felt that this is a time to say goodbye, more and more Israelis will call them to step down, since they were also responsible. They were part of this lack of strategy to end the conflict with the Palestinians and not to put more power where less power didn't work.
Well, we shall see what happens, certainly in the coming hours. I don't think this story is going away too quickly. For the moment, Akiva Eldar, thanks so much for joining us from Tel Aviv, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.